So I get people who, hey, it's DJ Crazy Jimmy as always, and I get people who ask me questions about, a laptop. Like, what laptop should I purchase? What technology should I purchase to replace my old technology? It's not working as the way it used to. It's getting slow. It's burnt out. It's no good anymore. And what I always feel people should do before they go out and buy a new laptop is go to a website called Linux and look into what that is. Most people don't realize that actually Apple created their operating system from a free operating system called Linux. Back in the day, they bought the technology, they needed the hardware for the computer and put it together and made their own proprietary systems, the classic MacBook Pro. But in the beginning, because they weren't Microsoft and they didn't have the operating system that Microsoft had, luckily enough that Microsoft had a contract with the government to be able to create this DOS operating system that evolved into Windows. That money that came in from the government, they had that financing to create the operating system. But when Windows and Apple split, because they used to be together, the founders used to work together, when they split, Apple didn't necessarily have an operating system to really work with that had the same functionality and stability as Windows. So they went to Linux and basically took this free coding software that's open source to anyone in the world that understands how it works. And it's not all that hard to understand how it works. It just takes some time to learn it like anything else. And they manipulated it in their own way and copyrighted their versions of it to become what it is today with iOS and OS X and Lion and everything else that they have created, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if you have an old laptop and it isn't a MacBook, even if it is, there's ways to do this, but if it isn't, if it's a Windows machine, it's an old Windows machine, a couple years old, and it doesn't work as well as it used to, but the technology still exists that it functions, you can revive this laptop by just downloading Linux. And there's several different versions of Linux available. My personal favorite is Linux Mint. It's simple, it's easy to use, it operates kind of like Windows, it's very user-friendly. It's got Google Chrome, it's got Firefox, it's got everything you need to connect to the internet, check your profiles, create your websites, whatever you got to do. But it uses so little resources compared to Windows. It uses so little compared to how much resource. Windows uses all kinds of memory and RAM, and even accessing your hard drive takes up a lot of time with that processor of yours. So if you just take all of those things that Windows basically consumes and minimize that with something called Linux Mint, and it's absolutely free to download. You can burn it to your CD. You can burn it to a CD through ISO. If you're not familiar with ISO and you want to know more about that, ask me in the comments. But how to burn a CD, if you're not really even sure how to do that, I can help you with that. But I mean, come on. Hopefully you know how to burn a CD nowadays. But go to Linux Mint and download that and burn a CD, put it in your hard drive, and boot it, and install this on your computer. You don't have to delete your Windows that's currently on your computer or any of your information. It won't hurt what's already there. It just won't hurt it. So the best thing is about this is when you turn on your computer, now you'll have two selections. Do you want to go into Windows or do you want to go into Linux? And it's friendly enough to be able to switch back and forth at any time you like. So if you're just poking around on the internet trying to work on your own projects, it's good to have something called a shell, a operating system specifically for one, type of operation. So if you're like in business or something and you don't have the time to be slowed down by Windows and you want something faster and you don't want to drop $3,000 into the latest MacBook Pro, but you still want to have a fast operating system that boots up and down really quick and operates really quick and brings so much more years to your laptop, download Linux Mint. I highly recommend it. And if you go into Linux, just type in Linux, distributions of Linux. There are so many types of distributions for Linux out there. Some of them are paid versions for corporations that use them in data centers. Data center is nothing more than just thousands of computers all hooked up to one internet connection that are really fast and really redundant and just won't fail. But they always do, they fail, but you don't notice the interruptions. But why not use Linux, what they use, these major corporations use all the time, because it's just free versus having to pay to use, an Apple. I think people don't realize this, and maybe they do. The average person doesn't probably realize this, is that when you access the internet with an Apple, you're not accessing other Apple machines 90% of the time on the internet. You're accessing a Linux machine or a Windows machine. That's how the internet works. Something called CentOS is like an operating system that's absolutely free. And it's currently on operating system 7 for CentOS. But people use CentOS 6 because it's stable for their data centers and dedicated servers. And they write code or have code from hotscripts.net or go to Code Canyon or the WordPress website, and you're actually accessing free software with a $3,000 computer that is no different than something with Linux, basically. So that's the thing people are a little bit not understanding. They have this really expensive phone that's $700. It's great, but it's no different than any other piece of technology because it accesses the same information that a Windows machine would or an Apple would. Only difference is about Apple and how that wouldn't be necessarily true on every level of operating system and platforms is that Apple does have their own software that's unique just to them, and they do have services that you can only be able to access with an Apple machine, and that's kind of why they keep you hooked on their hardware. But to be honest with you, it's a struggle for them to make sure that they're going to have in another 50 years from now as many users as they do right now. Apple has failed already once, big time miserably. When I grew up, I had an Apple IIe machine, it had a floppy disk, you put it in, you play Oregon Trail. And I was like 6 or 7 years old when I had that. Nobody remembers an Apple IIe, and if you do, that's great. But be honest with you, did you use an Apple IIe at work? No. And did anybody use an Apple when, if you're my age, when you were growing up? Probably not. No, it's not something you used. You use Windows because Apple didn't have a way to work with, business, to be honest with you. And now they do, and it's great. And you know what? I have a MacBook Pro in my recording studio, but I still always pretty much go to Linux because it's quick and easy. And, you can build a $3,000 computer with just the parts and put Linux in it, and I'm telling you the speed you can get. If you really want to test your computer to see what kind of speed you got, it's not, you could go to the settings and look and see what's going on. You could go to the admin part of your, Control Alt Delete and look into how is everything running, how much percentage of my, of my processor is being used. But a really good way to test your computer's capability is to go to something called BOINC, and this is something created by Berkeley. Is it Berkeley? I'm thinking music right now. Anyway, it's created by a college university, and I use it currently. I donate to science with it. And it's what you do is you donate to science with your computer, and it processes math equations, images of the sky, SETI images, and the computers for SETI and different math problems and different things that are going on in the world that need a lot of computing power don't exist just in one building. It's just not something that really is easy to build one computer that can do all the work necessary. So they have something called distributive computing, and that's where BOINC has been created. And if you want to donate with BOINC, you can download the app on your Android if you have Android. I don't know if it's on Apple, but I know you can download it on Android, and just your phone can donate to science, let alone your computers and a computer that you build, or even your MacBook. You can download it on your actual laptop or your tower, Apple machine, and it can donate to science. And if you can compare how fast your computer is with other people that have computers in a community and kind of see, this is something that nerds would do, maybe like myself, but to be honest with you, anybody could do. It's easy. Just download the app, go to BOINC in Google, and you'll see that it comes from the university. Download the file, you can open it, and just let it run for a couple days when you're working. It'll run in the background, it won't take up much of your resources. If it does, you can shut it down. It doesn't hurt anything, there's no viruses in it, but you could look to see what's going on over time with your computer and compare it to other people with computers to see what's going on. As always, if you don't have a domain, go to domains.google.com. Forget about all those other registrars that charge a lot more money and then have services they want to sell you as soon as you give them your information. Google won't do that. Into the discussion with that. If you don't know what to do with your domain, ask me questions. I'll answer them in a video. But definitely get a WordPress site. Go to hotscripts.net. Go to codecanyon.net. Go to themeforest.net and look at the different options that are available to anyone. And everybody has a brain. I mean, come on, let's just look at it how it is today. And technology is not too crazy to understand now that everybody's got a smartphone. Really, it's overwhelming at times, but if you just take the amount of time you spend on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and look into the different options that are available to anybody with an internet connection nowadays, and a couple dollars a month. I mean, you spend $10 a month on Netflix or Amazon, why not just spend $10 a month on your own .com and take back the power? Be honest with you, let's create the internet to be what it really is. You know, individualism and having that creative expression. If you're creative, or if maybe you're a business person, or you just want to have a family website, anybody can do it. Domains.google.com, register that domain name. You can set up email services. You can download different scripts through HotScripts for email. There's something called Horde, Horde, for email. It's a web browser. Basically, you log in your web browser. It's like a Hotmail or a Gmail, but you own it, and you can have your own domain email all managed through that. So let's say if you have like a family website you want to create, and you want to give all the names to every person in your family access to have like a one central email system where everybody can check their emails. This is a great place. Horde email, and there's a few other ones, like I can't remember them exactly right now, but I will do more research. If anybody wants to know anything or that I'm talking about and expand more on what I'm talking about, this is a lot of information in a very short video. Please ask questions, leave comments, subscribe, unsubscribe, I don't care. Just interact with me. Be honest with you, I would just like to be able to see a couple people, and it would be awesome to see thousands of people or even millions of people take what they have available to them today and actually use that for themselves versus having to keep logging into Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, MySpace, and whatever replaces what currently is today in the future. That's what it is for now. As always, download the DJ Crazy Jimmy app in the Google Play Store, djcrazyjimmy.com, and also radiomelive.com, but having technical issues with that because I need to move some servers around because I'm having a lot of people log into my servers, and it's kind of slowing things down a little bit on the user end of the website. But the djcrazyjimmy.com website works fine. Peace.